Well, it was 41 years ago today when Howard Cosell made the historic call.
I think he hurt Joe Frazier. I think Joe is hurt. Frazier's hurt. Angie Dundee, Ali's trainer, right next to me is saying it. You may hear him. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. The heavyweight champion is taking the mandatory 8 count, and Foreman is as poised as can be in a neutral corner. He is as poised as can be. We have a minute left in this first round, and already this fight is proving out what some have expected.
He turned 65 2 weeks ago. Our guest is George Foreman. How are you, Big George?
Doing pretty good.
Does it seem like that was 41 years ago?
The strange thing is that fear never disappears. It lives with you forever. In the dressing room, waiting for the moment to go out against Smoking Joe Frazier, a scary moment in my life that never disappears.
But you vanquished the man twice.
Yeah, if you corner a cat, there's no telling what the cat will do to you, too. I was cornered, had no choice.
I was reading up on that fight, and you were a 3-1 underdog. He was the reigning champion. He had beaten Ali. Why do you think you won that fight?
The one thing about, and I tell boxers, ask me all the time, how do you get rid of the fear? I said, that fear is that's what you want. That's what made me a greater fighter. At that time, I was afraid of Joe Frazier. Knees shaking, nervousness, didn't want to fight him, but I sold all the whoop tickets. I had to go through with it. But what made that fight spectacular for me, and I never recaptured it again afterward, I had that fear. Then you start thinking a lot of yourself, and you start walking into traps. But fear did it.
You didn't have fear against Ken Norton.
That's what I'm telling you. Just
you're saying
right
the fear
through.
made you better.
Yeah, the fear makes you better. All of a sudden you don't, Ken Norton was throwing shots. I was ducking and dodging and trying to get closer and closer to him. With the Muhammad Ali fight, I just walked every bell. He'd hit me with 2 shots, I'd keep coming. No fear. You really got to preserve and try to keep your fear if you want to do anything, not just boxing.
You have talked, the last time I saw you face-to-face was a sermon you gave at your church, and I was Michael Harris's guest, and I was surprised. You talked a lot about your own life that evening in the sermon, but you never talked about yourself as a heavyweight. You talked about yourself as a down-and-out teenager, and if someone didn't know that you'd been the world heavyweight champ, they wouldn't have known this was just some guy that had a tough childhood.
What? That's about the way the way it measures out too.
What did that win in '72 do for you mentally to say I can be successful?
One day you're walking down the street and people wave at you, and some people may know you, but basically I remember having a hard time getting a ride from place to place. Then overnight, you're heavyweight champion of the world. You got a few dollars in the bank. You got every friend that money can buy.
Well,
that's what happened. Things change. All of a sudden, you feel like I'm the best boxer ever. I can beat anyone in the world. I can do anything. One punch changed your life like that.
Isn't that interesting? Why do you think you had so much trouble when you were younger? Why do you think you were wayward, as you have said?
Well, you're poor. It's one thing about, and it still exists, being poor and then having some way and people to provide for you makes for a different mind. I spoke to my sister all the time. She wanted more than anything else to get an education, and I could not see why she wanted to go to school. I just couldn't understand it. And when you're poor, you have a different life, a different mindset, and there's no telling what you'll do. But you get just one break in life, things change. And a break in life could be just a father. Sometimes the mother raised all those kids alone. Then just one dad steps in the scene. That's the break you need. Someone else is in your corner. You can do anything.
You were raised by a man who was not your biological father. Was that one of the major factors, someone that actually loved you and cared about you?
Yeah, and he loved me too, but he and my mom just couldn't get along. I guess I come to find out later on that I was the major reason for them breaking up. It was a hard thing, He was not my biological dad, but he never mentioned it to me. Called me George Foreman, the next heavyweight champion of the world. Gave me something that no one will ever take away from me. Foreman, the name Foreman. That's one thing I really am happy that I have. Take all my money, take all my cars, but don't take my name. I'll never change it because my dad gave it to me, J.D. Foreman.
Well, in 1999, it was worth $138 million in change. So I think that's a pretty darn good name.
I think I better hold on to it now.
I think you've done pretty well for yourself. But, you have talked at length. I went back and read interviews you've done about how you wanted to go back and lay in bed instead of going to school, and all you wanted to do was sleep, and you were lazy, and yet boxing requires such discipline. So how did you go from that kid that didn't want to get out of bed and go to school to someone, I don't have the discipline, and most people don't, to sit and hour after hour take punches and give punches and work out and do the footwork?
There was a guy called him. First, I think one of the first Mr. America. His dad had been a prisoner, caught in German prisoner and brought to America. He was born here and became a war hero himself. He gave a speech once, and he looked right in the eye. He said, "Some of you kids are fighting." I was in a job course, and about the names people are calling you. He said, "Don't get worried about those names. Don't be bothered. Your name, you're an American. That's your name. No one can ever take that away from you." I'd never been called anything like that. From that point on, I figured I was a part of something. It made me get up in the morning, go to bed at night, stop drinking, stop smoking, start getting heroes and role models. Jimmy Brown, who had said, looking for a second chance, join the Job Corps. Then all of these people every message that was put on public service, I started to pay attention to. And from then on, I had a dream. Doc Brodus told me I could be heavyweight champ of the world if I stopped fighting in the streets. I stopped, and I became an Olympic gold medalist.
When you fought in the streets, did you ever lose?
All the time. Fifth Ward, you couldn't be a one-punch artist there because once you land your first punch, about 2 or 3 guys on your back.
So somebody in Fifth Ward is walking around today having whooped George Foreman, and no one will ever believe him.
I'm telling you, there's one guy called me once, Curly Gittrick. Pop me, Sunday punch me, cold cock me. I never did get him back.
When you went to Kingston, Jamaica for the Sunshine Showdown 41 years ago today, had you ever left the country?
Remember, I was an Olympic gold medalist. So
that's right.
I traveled to Mexico City to get the gold medal. And then I was, as an amateur, about 12 or 13 fights, I was on the American team representing and I traveled to Germany.
Oh, okay. George, can you hold with us for just a moment?
Certainly.
All right. George Foreman is our guest.
I hear something saying,
Sam Cooke would have been 83 years old today. And it was 41 years ago today that this happened in Kingston, Jamaica.
I think he hurt Joe Frazier. I think Joe is hurt. Angie Dundee, Ali's trainer, right next to me is saying it. You may hear him. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. The heavyweight champion is taking the mandatory 8 count, and Foreman is as poised as can be in a neutral corner. He is as poised as can be. We have a minute left in this first round, and already this fight is proving out what some have expected.
1968, gold medalist. And in 1973, the world champion, George Foreman, turned 65 years old 2 weeks ago. Big George, how are you?
Doing great, thank you.
What's a day in the life for you like now?
I have hobbies, a lot of hobbies. Although I'm always trying a new business, of course. You got to constantly earn. You just can't rest on what I had yesterday. You got to get up in the morning. If it's earn a dollar, earn. But I raised German Shepherd pups, so I'm up early in the morning trying to feed and get the pups ready and show them around the world.
The last time I called you, one of your kids said you were at the vet, and they would try to reach you, but you were at the vet with one of your prized dogs. So I guess that's what they were talking about.
Yeah, I think they're prized. Everybody else just call them dogs. But I love the dogs. That's what I enjoy doing most. And I have one son at home now. He's 14 years old. So I'm following him around. He decided this season to take up basketball. So go and watch him in the basketball games or sit out in the car and rest while he practices and stay out of his life, but stay right there in his life at the same time.
When you look at his childhood and how he's grown up differently than you, does it worry you that through those difficulties you were a better person? Because I struggle with this with my own children. I'm not hard enough on them. They don't have enough struggles.
Yeah, that's the one thing about struggling. It was really good for me, but if I had to do all over again and there was another way out, I would not have chosen the struggle. You sit down and you wonder. Sometimes I'd have one meal in a day, and the next day, who was determined whether it would be a breakfast or a dinner. I'd even take a bag that would look like there was grease in it, blow it up, and carry it to school for kids to think, oh, he maybe ate his lunch on the way to school, to disguise that I didn't even have a lunch. I wouldn't want my kids to go through that just to prove that they could make it through adversity. No, no, no. I enjoy the life my kids live today. They sit around and play video games. I said, boy, I wish I could have done that. They go to school and teachers welcome them high and they're waving at them. Every child should have that opportunity. I should have too.
You chose to name your children George. Why'd you do that?
Well, I surely wasn't going to name him Muhammad Ali. But you know what? I gave him a name. I said, look, if something happens, one of us, if someone does well, we all do well. Someone decide to do something bad, then we all are going to sink with that ship too. But as I mentioned, J.D. Foreman gave me something I'll ever be forever grateful to. He gave me that name. And my aunt called me George Edward, and I decided, look, I'm going to give these guys something that they can hold on to. If they get lost, they can find themselves with that name.
When you look back at your boxing career, what was the fight that you most remember? What's the one that sticks in your mind more than any of all the comebacks and everything else?
Well, I was heavyweight champion of the world, and I won the thing from Joe Frazier. I loved it. Then I lost the title to Muhammad Ali, of course. Then my first fight back, Run Lyle. I told everyone the things that happened in Africa. The ropes were loose. Someone put something in my food. I had all kinds of excuses. And then there I am on the canvas. The referee is counting. I didn't want to. I had to get up. I said, if I don't get up, they're not going to believe anything. He held me down again. I jump up again, beat the count, and I remember laying there thinking, I'm not going to lose this thing unless they carry me out on a stretcher. You never forget that kind of fight, and that's the fight that means and defines me as far as I'm concerned. One match I think about constantly is that one.
The Ring magazine rated that the fight of the year. When I think of your career, it's not the one I think about, but I wasn't getting punched either.
Yeah, you sit there and you wait. You got a little wisdom. When you get knocked down, you're supposed to wait so that you can hit a referee count 1, 2, and then don't jump up too quickly because you may fall down or you might just fall down again. All of that disappeared this night. I had to get up, and he hit me so hard it didn't even hurt. It was like, why am I on the canvas? Why am I down here? But I had to get up, and I made up my decision. I probably will die, but I'm not going to lose this boxing match. Run Loud beat me so bad that finally he just fainted.
he ran out of you did your own rope-a-dope on him.
No, I mean, he figured, look, this guy has come here for something else. I don't know what it is, but I'm getting out of here.
I was born in 1970, so I don't remember the Sunshine Showdown live, but I grew up, my dad and I watched boxing together. It was one of our things. I do very well remember in 1987 the coverage of you making your second comeback, and I was so impressed because 38, when you're 17 years old, 38 is the same as 88. And I remember this old, because I'm 43 now, so 38 ain't old, but this old man was coming back, and I remember my dad and I sitting down and watching that match and thinking how old you were, and still, why did you come back?
Profound reason. I was broke. I'd enjoyed the wealth, been heavyweight champion of the world and a lot of money for a long time. And I looked up one day There I am, a middle-aged man, and I didn't have any money. And for various reasons, I've lost money. Because when you think you have a lot of money, and I tell people all the time, it's a lot easier to spend $1 million than it is to spend $1,000. When you only have $900, you say to yourself, I'm saving. But when you have $1 million, you lose half of it. You say, well, I still got $500,000. And you do crazy things and you lose. And I looked up one day and I was broke. And I couldn't ask people, can you help me? Couldn't beg people. I had to get a job, and the only thing I could do was box.
Wow. You know, when you look back on the success the George Foreman Grill had, there are a lot of athletes out there, medalists, world champion in all their different sports, but that just took off and financially really took off. I'm not asking you to brag. I'm asking you to be introspective because people come up to you and say different things. Why do you think that your name attached to that product was so successful?
Mainly because I told everyone about my being carefree, and I did eat the burgers. And this thing was about cheeseburgers and hamburgers. And look, I wanted this thing. It was slanted. It could easily work on to get the grease out of any form of protein. It worked. And then at the same time, I kept everywhere I went. Johnny Carson, not Johnny Carson, the two other guys that took over from David Letterman. And these guys would invite me over, and we'd do the burgers on the grill, on the shows. Everywhere we went, we talked about it. Next thing you know, it was a household name. And then doctors would tell their patients, get a George. The word of mouth. People trust you. There's no telling how far you can go. Once you get a name and people trust, you can sell anything.
That's so true.
You lie to them once, that's it.
I got about a minute left. If you were face-to-face, as you have been, with young men in trouble today, what's the best advice you give them?
I talk to young people. First of all, I tell them about my life, because sometimes people don't listen to your words. They look at your life. They look right through you. Be sincere, and I tell them, you can. You can. And that's the one thing you can't seem to hear when you're young, is that you can.
Well, you've proven it. You've done it time and time again. George Foreman, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
All right, there you go. What a story. What a story.